It's hard to imagine, but Juice WRLD's dominance in music while he was alive really only lasted about a year and a half, maybe 2 years if we're being nice. That being said, bro was really a generational talent out here. By the way, that phrase should not be mistaken with people in sports and music who haven't really shown that they're like that just yet. Rich Manning. Oh, excuse me. Man, sorry. Back to the video. Juice really left a lasting impression out here that was noticeable and hard to ignore. That's why in this video, I'm gonna break down his rapid rise to the top, his untimely demise, and how sometimes when people die, well, they actually end up living forever in a roundabout way. By the way, guys, my name is Uche, and I make videos like this every single week, or at least I'm planning to. So if you like what you see, hit that like button. It'll push this out to more people. If you wanna see me grow, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into this. Okay. Let's talk about Jared Higgins, better known as Juice WRLD, AKA Juice the Kid, AKA Mr. 999, AKA Bishop from Juice. Yo, shout out to Tupac. I was watching the interview randomly and Juice WRLD said that he got his name from the movie Juice. His favorite character was Bishop, AKA Tupac.
Juice comes from the Tupac movie. It's one of my favorite movies. Also, I had the haircut because of that movie.
Okay.
Actually, it was a couple reasons. It was that movie, and then Soulja Boy dropped the mixtape, Juice mixtape. I was like in 6th grade when that came out, and the song "Zen with That Lean" Part 2. That was my cut. So. You know what I'm saying?
So, little tidbit, a lot of you guys probably don't know that, but nonetheless, it's hard to speak about Juice WRLD's music without giving you guys a little insight into how I loved to take in Juice WRLD's music when he was alive and also after he passed. But I'll be real with you guys. Listening to Juice WRLD's music, it's kind of like a constant, perpetual cycle of the Jay-Z meme where he's bobbing his head listening to music. And it's because while his flows and his delivery and his emotions are so on point over the production, it's hard to not play into the rejected feelings I have towards all the drug talk and anxiety and depression talk that he gives me. So yeah, I ain't gonna lie, it's always been a hard listen for me to listen to Juice WRLD's music, but I did get used to it. But I think a perfect summation of Juice WRLD's potential and career probably is by his homeboy G Herbo, where during an interview he called Juice WRLD the Biggie of this newer generation.
Juice was to our generation, bro, and the impact that he had on us is what Biggie did for New York, for real. Like, I really think what he had, that Biggie Pac effect, you know what I'm saying?
Which to me, I thought was crazy to a lot of people at the time when he said it, but not necessarily to people like me who really understood what Juice WRLD brought to the table. So think about people like Andre 3000 when he told an interviewer during a documentary about Future that Future made the most negative inspirational music ever.
Like, we Future fanatics, man, and we sit and we listen to it, and I said, man, Future makes the most negative inspirational music ever.
Remember that, guys? Well, I'm here to tell you that if I were to label Juice WRLD's music, I think he makes the most self-sabotaging inspirational music ever. Like, come on, y'all gotta feel me on that. Juice was a troubled individual, but he was somehow endearing and inspirational and also God-fearing at the exact same time. And I think that duality and the peak of Juice WRLD's controversial outlook on life and drug abuse probably came to the forefront with his collaboration mixtape he did with none other than Future back in 2018 called World on Drugs. And so it's funny, not just in that project, but also in all of his music, I thought Juice WRLD had a true gift, man. Like, this guy was a prodigy and probably a prototypical version of this new age version of rap. And I ain't talking about mumble rap. I'm talking about a guy who can rap, sing, great feel for production and melodies and harmonies, and was also hella vulnerable and introspective about what he was going through. And let's not forget the fact that this guy was arguably the best freestyler of all time. Yes, I said it, the best freestyler. I'm not talking about them guys who go up to the radio stations and spit writtens. No, we ain't talking about that. Matter of fact, I ain't even talking about what Ab-Soul recently tried to do. Hey, shout out to Ab-Soul. I think he's an amazing rapper, but sometimes when you actually try to freestyle, it don't work out. But in Juice WRLD's favor, bro had it. Now, let's talk about the meteoric rise of an artist as he created a defining sound that I thought created a bunch of stardom for himself and also artists that came to follow, right? So I think in order to do that, we have to talk about his debut album, Goodbye and Good Riddance, which to me was a emo trap rap album, if you will. It dropped on May 23rd, 2018, and it debuted at number 15 on the Billboard charts, selling 39K album equivalent units. And for real, Juice WRLD has always been a very dynamic artist, but I thought his introduction to the mainstream with this project was really dope to see, because obviously since the album has dropped, it's gone 5 times platinum. We are all aware of the huge single Lucid Dreams, which sampled Sting's classic track from back in the day. Little tidbit, by the way, Lucid Dreams actually dropped a whole year prior to it arriving on that Goodbye and Good Riddance album, but I digress. It seemed like that song took a long time to really bubble from when he first dropped it on SoundCloud in 2017. But this project, man, was extremely pivotal, man. Not only from a conceptual standpoint, the production, which was mainly handled by Nick Mira, who is mostly known for his work that he's done with Internet Money. It showed a distinct sound in emo trap to me that a lot of artists around that time were all trying to channel and trying to get their hands and feet on, and they were all trying to crack the code that I think Juice WRLD was able to really solve, man. And so when you think about this project, I have to think about signature tracks like, of course, Lucid Dreams, which Cole Bennett did the crazy visuals from a music video standpoint. I also think of All Girls Are the Same, which, by the way, when that song dropped, that was the song that got me hooked to Juice WRLD. It wasn't even Lucid Dreams. It was All Girls Are the Same. Something about that song really spoke to me, not because I actually believe that all girls are the same, but yo, the harmonies, I felt like bro really tapped into an emotion that a lot of people at one point felt, you know what I mean? Or are currently going through. Of course, we gotta talk about Wasted featuring Lil Uzi Vert. I thought Lil Uzi Vert snapped on his verse in a way that, yo, I could argue he ain't really been snapping like that for a while, but shout out to Uzi. I like Uzi a lot. Also, we think about songs like Lean With Me, Pop With Me, Get High With Me, If You Rock With Me. Come on, y'all know that song. And so I thought the focus of this album was centered around heartbreak, depression, of course, substance abuse, but Juice WRLD really showed that he could arguably be the voice of Gen Z on that project. And then we move to his next project, his sophomore album called Death Race for Love, which dropped March 8th, 2019, which sold 165K album equivalent units. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard charts, and I thought this was an elevation from that debut project, Goodbye and Good Riddance, mostly because it almost felt like Juice had really figured out how to make big records, right? I'm talking about not just talking about substance abuse, but also just talking about heartbreak and love and really doubling down on those concepts. You think about songs like Hear Me Calling, Robbery, also Who Shot Cupid, all the way down to even the introspective record that he had towards the end of the project called 10 Feet, going into songs that felt like a freestyle on that song called Feeling. And so this didn't do as well as the first album did, because this one was 2 times platinum, but I thought Juice really diversified his sound on this project and the topics as well. You got production from Nick Mira again. You got even production from Hit Boy, who produced He Motions and Big, and also Out My Way and The Bee's Knees, and also the song She the One. You also had production from Boy Wonder, who produced the songs Maze and Make Believe. And so this was a very much more dynamic record as a whole. But for some reason, to me, my favorite songs that I walked away with on this project was always Fast and Bandit featuring NBA Youngboy. Now, of course, Robbery and Hear Me Calling were the lead singles. Of course, Bandit eventually became a single, but Fast to me always was that record that stood out for me. I don't know. What about you guys? Y'all let me know in the comments. Now, beyond those 2 albums, we obviously know that post Juice WRLD passing away, his team, Grade A Productions, led by Lil Bibby and others, went on to release several projects that may or may not have already been on the docket to be released, but nonetheless, we know for a fact Juice WRLD was not around to experience any of the success or music that he had recorded prior. But with that being said, it's hard to ignore the dark prophecy and untimely death that Juice WRLD experienced. And look, when we have this discussion, when the culture has this discussion, I think we got to start being honest, right? And what I mean by that is, does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? Or is it a combination of both, right? So if you guys look at a few videos from me prior, you'll see I made a video about, is it art or is it evidence? Now, for me, I was talking about it in the criminal sense, but we all know how this goes. If it's our favorite artist, we bypass bypass a lot of the bullshit that they say just to bob our heads to the music. Now, if it's an artist that we don't like, you're more likely to use them lyrics and themes against them and call them a terrible person. Well, I'm not here to bash Juice or anybody else who's going through real mental health struggles, but we cannot ignore what was in Juice WRLD's music, right? If you think about the concepts and the themes, it was as clear as day that bro was troubled, and he almost spoke a lot of this stuff into existence. Now, again, I realize you're either somebody who believes in foreshadowing or you're somebody who doesn't. Me personally, I do believe in the power of the tongue. We've seen tons of examples of people who've talked about their demise and it actually happened. I'm not gonna get into it all the way, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And so on Death Race for Love, he had a song called Rider and countless others, but in particular on this song, he talks about him being laid down to sleep until his casket closes, right? Even if you go on his debut, Goodbye and Good Riddance, on the song Lean With Me, he says, looking at the devil and the angel on my shoulder, will I die tonight? I don't know if it's over. Looking for my next high, I'm looking for closure. He also goes on to say, told you if I die, I'ma die young. Yo, that's crazy, man. Like, you know, a lot of these guys have a fascination with dying young, and that's seen as like being a rock star. And we've seen countless others like Kurt Cobain and so many others die, man. And it's sad that we as a culture believe in dying young as if that's some sort of thing that we can stand on, right? Next, he had a song called Candles on Goodbye and Good Riddance where he says, these hoes like playing with me. Don't pray for me. Just bring me drugs, right? Super dark lyrics. Next, he has a song called I'll Be Fine where he says, Swervel told me stop popping Xannies before I flatline. Again, over these hard beats, this shit sounds amazing, but we gotta be real with ourselves. A lot of that content at the time, it was banging, right? Beats was knocking. Everything sounded amazing in terms of the flows. Juice was coming with it. It was undeniable what his talent had to offer on these songs. But if you're somebody who's being real with yourself, especially in hindsight, you gotta be honest. Yo, a lot of that content was dark. Yes, it is the reality of a lot of people, but listen, man, I ain't gonna hold you. It always made me feel uncomfortable. But there was none higher example than his famous line that he had while making a dedication song to XXXTentacion, and even you could argue Lil Peep on Legends, where X had died. And that was already a tragedy that the culture was experiencing. And here comes Juice WRLD in his perfectly artistic self, penning a dedication record. He actually dropped 2 songs that day. Legends was just one of them. The other one was called Rich and Blind. But this song in particular, man, he has a prophetic line where he talks about a 27 club. We ain't making it past 21. And to think Juice WRLD actually died on December 8th, 2019, 6 days after his actual birthday, is some of the most tragic, ironic instances that I've probably ever seen in my life. And I know that Juice WRLD's death probably shook a lot of you guys as well. I know I'm not the only one. And so all in all, man, listen, I'm not trying to make this a preachy video, but I will say we as fans definitely have to pay attention to our favorite artists. It's not just about the slaps, man. Are these guys really crying out for help? Do they have people around them that actually care about them to help them get help? You know what I mean? And also, more particularly, this raises a huge question in the music industry that I remember seeing even people like Leor Cohen on the Breakfast Club being asked about artists who have drug issues and should they go get them help, or are you there to sort of supply them with the stuff they need to make the music? And he gave a real chilling answer that really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent, but I have to, I can't give up on people.
But I'm saying that's hypocritical though. You're saying
it's opportunistic.
Yeah.
I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
And it tells you that the industry isn't necessarily looking out for the best interests of these artists. And yo, if you have a homie, a family member, a friend, anybody that you care about that is expressing all type of mental health issues, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, yo, listen to what they have to say and don't brush it off, man. You could actually probably save somebody. Real talk. All right, now that we got that out the way, yo, shout out to Juice, man. Rest in peace, by the way. But let's have a little fun, man. I got a question for y'all. What if Juice WRLD never died? Like, what if? Would we have gotten the project Legends Never Die in 2020, right? Would we have gotten the 5-year anniversary 5 years later with a couple more songs on it? What would Fighting Demons have sounded like back in 2021? Or the Deluxe back in 2022? What about The Party Never Ends that came out in 2024? And also the 2.0 version that dropped as well. Would any of this music have happened the way it happened? I think that's always the issue with posthumous albums. I know people in my real life and online who they not rocking with posthumous albums. One, because it gives them an eerie feeling. Two, they're not even sure if this was the artist's direction artistically. I think those are legitimate critiques, but I ask you guys, what if we never got them projects? Would Juice WRLD's music have been more potent, or would he have fallen off artistically? I don't know, man. Y'all let me know. But all in all, though, I do feel like Juice just unfortunately joins a long list of artists that when they were here changed music, but because they died so young, you could argue they had wasted potential. And I don't mean wasted as if they did anything wrong. It's more about, damn, we all did not even get to experience their artistry to its fullest, or the artist didn't get to live a full life and evolve over time like we asked a ton of artists to do. Think about artists like Biggie, Notorious B.I.G. He died after only putting out really one album, and then Life After Death dropped, and yeah, we never heard another album from him because he had passed away so young, man, and he's a legend. Think about Tupac. We got a couple of albums from Tupac. He died young. What would Tupac's sound have sounded like over time? Or what about even like Nipsey Hussle? Granted, I know Nipsey had been in the industry for so long. It took him so long to pop off, but when he finally dropped Victory Lap, he was able to experience the fame and the praise that I think he had so longed for. But him tragically passing showed his superstardom go to another level posthumously. And so what would he have been? You know what I mean? All in all, I think Juice WRLD's legendary freestyles will live on, man. I was having some fun the other day, and I went back and looked at his Tim Westwood freestyle where he, quite frankly, did one of the craziest things I've ever seen, and that's somebody freestyling for 1 hour straight. Like, I promise you, you're probably never gonna see another person in your life do that again. So if you're like me, yo, you wanna see it again, go on YouTube, man. That shit's everywhere. Or how about the freestyle he did at Charlie Sloth? You know, Charlie gotta give all type of sound effects like, he's heating up, he's on fire, oh my God. You know, Charlie's a little annoying with it, but Juice did his thing on that freestyle. Legendary stuff that bro put together. But if you think about, like, hypothetically what his career would have looked like and would have been like, bro, I would have seen him doing songs with Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Sabrina Carpenter, Drake, Kendrick, Morgan Wallen. I genuinely think this guy had zero limits when it came to his artistic ability. As I mentioned earlier, this is somebody who could rap. Like, I'm talking about backpack rap on some Mac Miller shit if he wanted to get into that bag, or he could flex on you and get in his trap bag if he wanted to. He also was dynamic enough to really hop on pop records like he did with Halsey when he was still alive. He also hopped on a L Golding record. He did a lot of EDM records as well, man. I feel like this guy was a unicorn when it came to the music that he was able to get his hands on. And we've genuinely, at least for me, I don't think I've seen anything like him since. And it remains to be seen if there will ever be another guy like Juice WRLD. Because in an era right now where hip hop is already on a downturn, people are arguing, is hip hop falling off? I saw a stat the other day, and it said that Goodbye and Good Riddance is the #5 most streamed album of all time on Spotify. And above him, Drake has #3 and #2 spots with Scorpion and Views, and #1 is XXXTentacion with his question mark album. But just for you guys, shits and giggles, yo, Juice WRLD is actually #12 with his Legends Never Die project, and he's also #17 spot with Death Race for Love. And so, man, I think Juice leaves by a unmatched legacy in the 1.5 to 2 years of existence he had in the game. Bro, he did so much, and I really feel like the legacy he left is, to me, undoubtedly something that is gonna be etched in stone, and it's legendary stuff. I personally consider Goodbye and Good Riddance a classic. It's up on my wall, and you know, man, he's left us his protege, the Kid Laroi. I'm super hype about Kid Laroi. I think his potential is amazing. He's somebody that I think does exactly what Juice did, but even damn near arguably, I don't want to say at a better level, because he can't freestyle. He can't do half the things that I think Juice was doing, but Kid Laroi does a lot artistically, man. His voice is incredible. He can rap, he can sing. He does so many different things that, to me, I think Juice WRLD would be proud to see how far the Kid Laroi has taken it. But I think none more is probably a crowned achievement to kind of cap off Juice WRLD's legacy, and it's none other than what his mom is doing with her Live Free 999 Foundation, which seeks to give kids a second chance, emotional support and spiritual support and all type of support that they need when it comes to substance abuse, anxiety, depression, all things that Juice WRLD was struggling with. And so I will say, I think while we got shorted a career when it comes to Juice WRLD, I do feel like his music lives on, and he's a legend in my eyes. Maybe he is to you as well. But what do you guys think? Are you still still bumping Juice WRLD's music? Or do you consider him a legend? Or how about, was his career cut too short for you to give him such a legendary title? Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, my name is Uche. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.